WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts, along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episode. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
Now, I am JR, as you heard in the intro. So this crazy thing happens. We have this measuring stick for success. We become successful. We attain a superlative after that, a reward. And sometimes that reward is monetary. Sometimes that reward is not monetary. Sometimes it's in a lesson. And a lesson is best taught when you have to actually buy it. And when you have to buy a lesson, it stays with you way longer than any lesson that could be given to you by circumstance or by just whatever. And I have a successful author with me here today that had to buy a lesson. And his lesson was to the tune of a certain amount of money. I'll let him talk about that. But in him buying a lesson, it gave him a turning point. And that turning point is what we're going to get here and talk about. So, Mr. Tommy Kilpatrick, please take it over for me and tell the story of how you bought a lesson and a little bit about yourself too, if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all. I'm a retired teacher and an author, and I wrote a book on health and healing. And back in 2004, I was given an infomercial radio contract. And so we were test marketing it. And about 6 months, I had to live on my 3 credit cards. I was promised about $100,000 a month. And so running up 85,000 would not be a problem at all, except when one of the talents got in trouble with the FTC. He made some false claims in his weight loss book, and all the new talent contracts were canceled. So I was stuck with $85,000 of alleged credit card debt. And so that put me in a little tailspin. About a month later, I woke up thinking about my dad being a CPA, and I was in school to be a CPA. I never got the credential, but I can do the work. And I realized the bank never had an invoice, which is the debt instrument. You have to have an invoice to prove you have a debt. So I don't have a debt with the bank. And then I have a memory, and I remember the book Modern Money Mechanics, which was put out by the Federal Reserve, which was required reading in our accounting class. And it says on page 6, right there, that what banks do to make a loan is they accept a promissory note in exchange for writing numbers into your free checking account. So basically, I never signed a promissory note. There never was a loan. My father at the time was an attorney and a judge, and we had long conversations about fraud undoes all contracts. And even though I use the card and I have to comply with their their terms and conditions, that's all thrown out because of fraud. So I'm going to say to you right away that I am a doubting Thomas. I expect you to doubt me, please. There are links in the show notes, and you'll look at those 3 links and you'll see what I'm saying is true. I also want you to send this to a CPA or anyone who's had one class of accounting, and they'll tell you I'm 100% correct. So basically, what I'm saying to you and your audience is that you are a crime victim. I have uncovered a worldwide fraud done by the banks to deceive you and to make a lot of money off of your ignorance and your, I don't know what to say, but your trust. So that's a little bit about my background. And so I'm here to help you.
Okay, and I like that. And that's something that's really uncommon because, in a situation like this with this type of debt, I mean, even if you had a great job, most people would declare some type of bankruptcy, go to a credit counselor, but you decided to sue the bank, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy thing. I had come across a YouTuber back then who talked about how easy it was to file a federal lawsuit. The judges are so accommodating and helpful to the pro se litigant. So, with the help of my father-in-law, I filed 3 federal lawsuits in Los Angeles against the banks. In my pleading, I had explained the crimes that they were committing, and what happened is we were going along pretty well. We are going to have a deposition was set for the a bank to bring on a bank employee who was going to say I actually had a debt. I was very entertained to hear that, and they had the evidence, and so bring it to the deposition. And then all of a sudden, I was called into court, and my father-in-law said, that doesn't happen," and he called me in and not the defendant. So, and the judge said, "Mr. Kilpatrick, do you have a credit card?" "Well, let me start at the beginning." "Oh, we'll start at the beginning later. Do you have a credit card?" Well, start off as a gift card." "A gift card? Pull your card out." So I pull my card out. I said, "Read right there what it says, credit card." "You're an idiot. Get out of here." So he dismissed my 3 cases. So did I win? Well, obviously not, because I didn't get a jury trial to explain everything. But when about 30 days later, I looked at my credit report, all 3 of those bank issued alleged credit cards were gone off the credit report. I never got sued. I never got a 1099-C. Now, that's important to explain right now, is that what that is, when a bank loans you, let's say $100,000, and you don't pay, you got $100,000 money. So the bank notifies the IRS through a 1099-C that you got money that you didn't pay back. So then they're able to take a tax deduction. So the banks did not send me a 1099-C, and because I didn't ever get notified that I'd have to pay about $30,000 in taxes on a loan that I never received. So in my pleading, I explained to him that if you do file a 1099-C, I'm going to file a 3949A. When I was brought up by a CPA, I have the IRS as part of my DNA. So I know these forms. So this is a form where you notify the IRS of fraud. So when someone fraudulently files like a 1099-C against you, and it's not true, and that's what I said, may be liable for tax fraud. So I never got any backlash at all from the banks. Actually, my credit score improved. So I got a charity. A friend of mine had a dormant charity, so I turned it into a credit repair. And many of these people had a few credit cards, and so I would have them withdraw their money out of their checking account, and then I would send a letter to the bank, and they all were dismissed. They were all taken off the credit report. Not even a word. Always asked them to close the account and take it off the credit report, and it was done. And then some of the bigger ones, they would push back. So that's where I have experience in court with my expert CPA. And that's where the CPA would explain to the judge what was happening. So before we didn't get there, we talked to the attorney of the bank and explain what was going to happen. And they just say, "Okay, what do you want?" "We want it off the credit report." And they would do that. So that's what the judge would receive as a settlement. And he was perplexed by going, "What's going on here? You're agreeing to take it off the credit report? There's no debt?" Okay. So that's been my experience. So that's what I'm here to explain to you.
Wow. So my thing here is, why do you think there is and I hate to use the word ignorance. Let's just say, why is there a lack of education to the general public? Because I'm going to take you back with me, and you were in the same generation to a degree, or around the same thing. We had economics in school. And when we were taught economics, you learned the check balance, and you learned the issued credit, and you learned the difference between a line of credit with bank and a credit card, this and that. But this bit of information that you're telling me, right? Which I know that you can go back and research, and everybody inside the show notes, you will be able to go back and research through the links from Mr. Kilpatrick, everything to make sure everything suits your mode. And in saying that, audience, I know that there'll be some people that may be skeptical, but like everyone knows, something that I preach on the show, use the 4 skills that you learned in life: your math, your science, your English, and your history. If you use all 4 of those in this type of situation, this could help a lot of people out. And this could be something this should be something that is fundamentally taught in school. This should be something that is a practice. So without being the son of a CPA, a lawyer, you wouldn't have had this knowledge, correct? So,
Right. I
so
have
ignorance,
experiences.
basically ignorance would have been bliss, right?
Well, not really, because I had an experience of many things, which led me to this realization that there's been a worldwide fraud brought about. All I ask you and your audience to do is have an open mind. A mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. Would you agree with me that you, your audience, and me too, have been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed? Is it possible? Let me just start it that way. Is it possible that we've been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Including me. Okay. So when you were been lied to, well, we can see a lie, but what happens if it's generational? What happens if your parents, grandparents have been telling you over and over again, and the school tells you, and the whole system tells you that you've got credit card debt? Well, law is language, language is law. So if you say you have credit card debt, you got it. You can't get out of it. You go into court, you say, I got a credit card. There you go. You got debt. So there's no way out of it. But I'm just asking you to, the thing is that when it's generational, it's going to be indoctrination. So we have been indoctrinated. That's why one of your answers to your question is, why don't people know about this? We've been indoctrinated to a lie. Now, if you don't question it, you have been brainwashed. So all I'm trying to do is not disparage or call your audience names, including me too. But I'm not trying to say that you're brainwashed. I'm just saying, is it possible? And what you want to do is question. So if you start to question the whole thing, you're not brainwashed. And that's back to what you were saying. Use your math, use your science, use your history. This is perfect. So what you want to do is ask these questions, because law is language and language is law. So we see a bank robbery in process in the video on TV, and they always say alleged. All I'm asking you to do is add one word, is allege. So now the question is, how can I nuke my alleged credit card debt? And that's what we're kind of getting back to, is there are legitimate credit cards. This is not a scheme to get out of debt. It's not that at all. All I'm trying to explain to you is that you're a crime victim. And this is what happens, is that when you have, all I ask you to do is add in the word alleged. Now it's on the burden of the bank to prove that there's a debt. Okay, so there are true credit cards. Let's say you go into a tire store. You need tires for your car, but you don't have the money. You find out it's more than $1,000. Man, I don't have that, but I need the tires or I'll die on the road. They say, oh, JR, why don't you just apply for an in-store credit card and see if you're approved? Well, you're approved. Fantastic. They put the tires on your car, you drive away, you don't pay for it, right? But they have an invoice. You get a statement at the end of the month, which is true. You have an outstanding unpaid invoice, which is true, and you have to pay that. This is not what I'm explaining to get out of debt. This is not a get out of debt scheme. What this is explaining to you is there's a difference between a store credit card and a bank issued credit card. So how can you tell the difference if it's, let's say, a Amazon card or a department store card? Look at the back. On the back of your card, if it says issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of London, Bank of Tokyo, Bank of India, this is worldwide, then that is a phony credit card.
Okay. And I could see things with that because, like you said, the wording, and like you said, if something actually has true in-house financing, it's financed through them. And let me ask you this. Could this almost be typical to like a car loan, for instance? Like I know certain type of car loans are in-house financing. They don't go to outside banks. Like they actually have a finance department that they own to handle those type of things. So could that be considered proper, a proper loan, or would that be an improper?
See that? No, we'll get to that in a second, but here's the thing about they confuse you. The banks purposely do this. So you don't go into a bank to get tires. Someone in the bank doesn't drive out to your house and do some plumbing job for you. They do not do goods and services, so they don't ever have an invoice. And that's the critical thing. So we have to kind of agree now that the bank could never have issued a credit card because they never issued you credit. Now the argument is they gave you a loan. Well, years ago, when you went into the general store, he said, hey, Charlie, I need 5 pounds of flour and a pound of sugar, and I'll pay you when my crops come in. Oh, yeah. that's take care of it, Tommy. We'll see you in about 2 months when you get paid in all your crops. That's the way it used to be. You didn't go into the store and say, hey, Charlie, can I borrow $10 and pay you interest? That's the bank. So the banks are involved in loans. Okay, so now let's go down that route. Well, let me ask you a question, JR. If you apply for a loan and you're turned down, do you still get the loan?
No.
See, that's stupid, right? Okay. But if you're approved, then what do? Is you go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. Remember all those loan documents you fill out?
Yes.
And then what you have to do is prove you have an income. Because let's say the bank is taken to court. The judge is going to say, bank, you're giving loans to people who don't even have an income? That sounds pretty predatory to me. This is like a crime. What are you doing to the public? That's not right. And that's why the bank has you prove you have an income. Notice how there's none of this in a credit card application. So you apply for a credit card and you get turned down, you don't get it. But if you get approved, they give it to you, not a loan. Because back to the loan, you have to have collateral.
Right.
You put your house up or your car, like your car loan, or let's say you go for a personal loan and you put up your yacht, let's say. Okay, so this is legally able for the bank to take that piece of possession away from you, sell it, and if they're short, that's their problem. If they're long, meaning they made money, they have to give that money back to you. So a bank cannot confiscate your yacht, pay off the $100,000 loan, and keep $900,000. They got to give that $900,000 back to you. You own that yacht, but you put that up for collateral. There was no collateral in this credit card. Well, bank issued alleged credit card. That's where you got to add the words in. Bank issued to know it's not a real credit card, and alleged credit card. You also have to have a credit report, and you have a credit score that's going to determine your interest rate. And the last thing you sign is a promissory note. You have to promise to pay it back. You never signed that with a bank issued alleged credit card. So you never had a loan. It was never issued to you. So that's kind of, now the question is, what happens? What happened to you?
That's crazy. Like, just with that wording, and like you said, anybody will be able to check the show notes. And I mean, I'm thinking about that. Like, that makes sense. And like you said, a type of contractual obligation, like when you go get a car loan, you do have to prove your credit. I mean, your income, this and that. And a credit card is just as simple as I sign it. They check a credit score if they like what they like, or they like the mannerism. They give me a credit card. If they don't, they whatever whoop-de-doo. Some of them do a hard inquiry. My credit gets a little hit or something, and they keep going. So you've got me intrigued with this. So I want to tell you thank you for that thus far, because that makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing we do on the show is it's real nostalgic. We do the shameless plug. So, Mr. Kilpatrick, what I need you to do real quick is tell everybody where they can meet and greet you across the internet so that they can know more about you and get more involved in your solution.
Right. It's very simple. In the show notes is my email, and also Tommy A. Kilpatrick on Facebook. And there'll be a link there. So that's the easiest way to reach me, and very simple. So just go to the show notes. It's right there for you. And so you said an important word. They gave you the bank issued alleged credit card. That's the important word, is gave. So you see, the banks are all set up for loans. So if you have no money and you want money, you go to the bank and you draw out money. Perfect. That's what a loan is. But what happens is that the banks advertise to get you as a customer, right? Years ago, they would purchase wall clocks and toasters and have you come into the bank, and they would give you this if you opened up an account. Years ago, I saw an ad in the paper that said, if you deposit $25, we'll match it in 90 days. Well, what did I do? I went into the bank, took my $25, deposited into my savings account. I waited 91 days, drew out my 25 and the bank's 25, closed the account. Now, I got a question for you, JR. Was that illegal? Was that ripping off the bank? Was that immoral, what I
No,
did?
that was legal. I see
Was it
nothing wrong with
illegal
that.
what I did? There's nothing wrong with that. The bank said, do this. I did it. So what? They lost. Most of the people are going to keep their money there, but they ran the risk, right? That's their problem. It's the same thing when they gave you a $500 credit card. It's a bank issued alleged credit card, right? But when you get a gift, you told me just a few minutes ago, they gave you the card. If I give you something, we call that a gift. If there's a loan, well, there's a loan, and we have to have a meeting of the minds. Can I borrow $500? Well, I have to have collateral because I don't know if you're going to pay it back. What's the terms? What's the conditions? We have it all written all out. You sign it, I sign it. We each have a copy of it. We have a contractual agreement for a loan, but there never was a loan. So the banks do this to get you as a customer. So why would they give you a $500 gift card? Why would they give you a $10,000, $1 million, whatever line of credit is? Now, what they're doing is actually from their advertising budget. So that's the same thing. So when you got this gift card, what'd you do with it? You went to, let's say, Home Depot, and you bought a toilet, a golden throne. So you're walking out with this toilet, and a guy at the door says, wait a second, did you pay for that? You didn't pay for that, right, JR? Think about it. You got this card in the mail, they gave it to you. It's what I would call a gift card. And remember, language is law, law is language. So if you use the criminal's language, you're going to lose. If you use the truth, you have the truth, and that's going to set you free. So what you're going to say is, wait a second, who paid Home Depot? You didn't, but Home Depot's letting you walk out with their $500 toilet. So who paid the bank that night or the next day?
Home Depot.
Yeah, the bank.
Right.
So Home Depot knew, because it was approved, that they were going to get the $500, so they let you walk out. Now, are you going to get a statement at the end of the month from Home Depot saying you owe us $500 for an outstanding unpaid invoice?
No, it's going to come from the bank.
No. Right. You get a statement from the bank. Now, we get statements from the bank all the time. So when you take money into a bank and deposit it, that's actually considered a loan. Banks are only set up for loans. If you have no money, you want the bank to give you money, they put money into your free checking account. What you do is when you take money and put it into your savings or your free checking account, you're actually putting money in there and you're loaning the bank money. As you spend your money, then it's a less obligation the bank has, but then you can fill it back up and back and forth. That's a normal checking account. So when you get a statement at the end of the month, is that a bill from your normal checking account? No, it's not a bill. It showed you what you started with, your deposits, the checks, the debits that you did, and maybe some fees, and you have an ending balance. That's all it is. It's a statement. It's a ledger statement. That's all it is. It's not an invoice. It's the same thing with your bank issued alleged credit card statement. It's not a bill, but they tricked you. They lied to you. They've indoctrinated you. And if you don't question this, you've been brainwashed. So go ahead, enjoy your card, be brainwashed. I can't help you. But if you question it, now we have the possibility of not getting out of debt, trying to understand what's happening. So you got that statement from the bank. You thought it was a bill. You're a good person. You're a moral person. You did the right thing by writing a check out to the bank. Now, let me ask you a question. It's kind of hard to figure this out. So let's say you have a bank let's say West Virginia Bank, and they gave you a Bank of America credit card. Okay. You think it's a card debt. You think you have to pay it. So you write a check from your bank, Bank of West Virginia, to Bank of America. Is that the first time that Bank of America ever got your money?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because you got a card in the mail, you used it, you got a statement from Bank of America, you wrote a check from your Bank of West Virginia to Bank of America. That's the first time Bank of America ever received your money. That's a loan. You put $500 into your free checking account. Every purchase you've made since then has been with your own money. That's why it's not a loan. That's why you didn't fill out loan documents. That's why you didn't sign a promissory note, because it's your own money put into your checking account. Now, the next purchase is with your debit card. Law is language. Language is law. So it's not a credit card. It doesn't exist. They can't do that because they're not a merchant. What they are is a bank. So if you have a normal checking account, you have a debit card. Right. So you've been using your debit card thinking it was there's the crime. There's the fraud. So you're now finding yourself in debt, and no, you're not in debt. It's your checking account, and the bank wants you to put $1.3 trillion. That's his phony number. They're putting out, it says there's $1.3 trillion of credit card debt. There's not $1.3 trillion. $1.3 trillion is what the bank wants you to deposit, bring it back up to what they started off with. That's all. And if you don't pay, they charge you interest. So why does the bank want you to be a customer? They're making on average $23.04. I typed this up myself about 2 months ago. You can do the same. How much does a normal average person pay on their credit card fees? $23.04. So if the bank has 1 million card holders, they're bringing in $23 million a month. I calculated it to be about 1/4 of their profits. So a bank is profiting 1/4 of their money on this illegal criminal scheme to get you to pay $23.04 on average on your free checking account.
And that is, wow. That makes sense.
Follow the money.
Follow the money and read.
Right.
I can
So
say
you're
100%.
good at math.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I can
I'm
say
good at math.
100% in this video, in this interview, not video, is this: if you pay attention, like you said, to the verbiage, you actually read verbatim. You don't go, like you said, on the stuff that we've been indoctrinated on, or we have been told is the truth. If you actually pay attention to it, everything you said makes sense.
It's not some wacky, weird idea of bills of exchange or sovereignty or Title 15, all these kind of things other people are bringing up. No, this is just sound banking, sound accounting principles. And so my experience is that when I became my first job as an accountant, I was going to do I sat down at my desk, I was ready to start writing checks out and everything. The CPA, the CFO came over and said, put a finger in my face, that if you pay from a statement, I'm going to fire you. That stuck in my head. He explained to me that statements are not a bill. Statements could have been negotiated by the president of the company. They could have made a deal. We don't know that. The checks could have crossed in the mail. We don't know if they've been paid. You only pay from an invoice. He said, look over here. See in the corner here is a department head. You only pay invoices that have been already signed by the department head. You just don't pay any invoice, because how do we know it's true? We need the department head to verify, yes, we got that product in, it was proper, the shipping was correct, everything's correct, terms and conditions are correct, that's what we negotiated, now you pay. So that's my experience that most people don't have. The other one is I had an accounting class and I have a memory of the book Modern Money Mechanics, and it's in the show notes. You can look it up right there. It says that's what banks do. And before that, it even ridicules, it makes laughter. It says, of course, banks don't take depositors' money and loan it out. There wouldn't be enough. So what they do is they have you sign a promissory note, and then they write numbers into your free checking account.
That makes sense. So, audience, the challenge for you is this: look at the verbiage, look at what you're actually signing, and look at what you're actually agreeing to. Take a step back and, like the processes we talked about earlier, the 4 things that we've always used every day, use those instead of impulse. Because impulse seems like that is the issue that keeps people in this credit card debt and into situations that um, get masked, and then people think that they have debt when they should be actually thinking about debt denial, because this resonates with me. And I mean, after I'm done with this interview, I'm going to go back and look at some verbiage on some stuff that I paid for in the past to improve my credit. And I want to be like, whoa, could I challenge this? You know, and when I say this, audience, I'm saying it like this: not something that I legally bonded to through a factual loan, because the definition that was explained here by Mr. Kilpatrick, like he said, he's not telling you to try to get over, but actually look at what you agreed to or if you agreed to anything. And if you didn't agree to anything, that's where you need to pay attention. Now, if you were, and I'm not going to use the word gullible, but if you were in sound mind and body and decided to sign whatever agreement you signed, that's not what he's saying clear up, because that's something you intentionally signed and did on your own, just like the principles of actually getting a car loan or a loan for a home or even a personal loan. He's not discrediting those things because there's a, like you said, that you have to prove what you have for it. Actually, thinking about it, you can even go back to those Capital One and Credit One cards that you're always offered at the age of 18. They're just given to you before the maturity of any of your credit. Because I'm thinking about it back in my past, because in 2004 I would have graduated high school. The first credit card that was given to me was by Credit One or Capital One, $300 credit limit. They didn't care what my credit was. Use this to build your credit was the idea or the ideology that was passed around to us. And then after you had that credit card for like 2 or 3 months, another card will go up. We'll just say Merch Bank or something like that. And everybody offers all of this stuff, but never asked me to sign anything. And I'm thinking about this. Even so, like I'm going really hardcore with this. I remember correctly, we truly didn't sign, and I'm saying truly, no cardholder agreement. They just send you a big packet of paper, and it's that. Sometimes the card's already got your name pre-printed on it, and all you got to do is activate it here, and you got this line of credit. And it's that essential. Every 3,000 banks from Omaha literally sends a credit card out, and that's how that kind of flows. So I thank you for that, Mr. Kilpatrick. Now, before we end the show, I would like you to leave the audience with a mission statement. And the mission statement inside that, I want to tell you something ahead of time. I thank you for this because thinking in a non-linear expression makes us more well-rounded. And I got that from you today. You have me doing what I haven't done since school, questioning the norm. And the thing is like you said, if that has been instilled in our head all these years, some people will be skeptical and say this or that and that because they're like, oh, this is what we were told. This is what my grandma did. This is what my great grandma did. But evolution in life comes from a challenge. So I thank you for understanding this and spearheading this to help people out if no one has ever told you that.
Oh, thank you very much. And what happened to you? Well, you can ask me, Tommy, do you have a credit card? Yes. And who'd you get it from? Capital One. But I had been off grid for about 10 years. I had no credit score and I had no credit history at all. It was blank. So how did I get a Capital One credit card? They gave me a $500 card because I applied. Well, that was one of the banks I sued. I sued them for an alleged 35,000 that they thought I owed them, and it was taken off my credit report. So because I was a former customer of good standing, they issued me a credit card. Why would they do that? Because they make on average of $23.04 every month. So that's why they're sending all these cards out. They want as many members as possible because once you send money to the bank, it's your money in your checking account, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. So there is a solution. One, you write a letter to the bank, ask them to close your free checking account associated with this card. Now, what you have to do is max out the card. No, you don't max out the card. You withdraw the money out of your checking account because if you don't do that, the bank is going to confiscate your money. If they lowered your credit limit, no, they didn't lower your credit limit. They stole money out of your account. That's what they've done. So you need to know the right law, the right language to use. Now, the second part of your letter should be coming from your CPA, who says, first of all, bank, you don't have a credit card, then you do not have a debt. So if you have an invoice, send it, I'll pay it. The second thing is there never was a loan because a loan required by federal banking regulations to have a promissory note. So my client didn't sign a promissory note. There was no loan. Then a third layer would be from an attorney, and you're going, oh no, $200 or $300. There's a thing called Legal Shield. It's $29. You get an attorney for a month. That's all you need it for is a month. And have the attorney write a letter to the bank saying fraud undoes all contracts. And that's in the show notes too. Then what you can do is actually do what I did, is file a lawsuit. It doesn't have to be federal, just file a civil lawsuit, but you don't file it. Fill out the paperwork, and here's the best part, the injunction. So, JR, if someone is bothering you, you can take them to court, not to sue them, but to stop them. And now that's in the news because Trump does anything, someone runs to court and stops it with an injunction. So the bank is going to know by you sending this brick of paper that if they ever sue you or you decide to sue them, you're going to be asking for an injunction, which makes the bank bring a document from the bank of a outstanding unpaid invoice to the judge. You also have to bring a certified copy of the promissory note to the judge. And we're also asking the bank to have an affidavit of debt, one person in the bank to swear out on the penalty of perjury that you have a debt, and they have the proof of it. And if that does not arrive on the judge's desk in 30 days, they're in contempt of court and everything stops. So once the bank sees this brick of paper, click. That's all they did for me, is click, and they did it for all my clients, is click off the credit report and nothing will happen. So I have a free 15-minute consultation. Give me a contact. And I also, if you do that, I'll give you my $69 book for free, Forgive and Forget, How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt.
And I want to thank you for that, Mr. Kilpatrick. And I am JR. And one thing that I want to leave you all with this final thought is this. Tommy had a life. He was out there living it. And he had certain boundaries and confines set up. And his boundaries were invoked on by the credit card company. And he took it a step further and he figured out who and what infringed on his financial security in life. And that's something that people take for granted and don't care about. They just like, oh, I'll just have to pay this because I have to pay it. But they don't know why they're paying it. So on that note, I want to say thank you to Tommy. Thank you for this very innovative thought pattern with your book. People, please pick it up from him. Also, that's available online also, right?
On Amazon. It's on Amazon worldwide.
All right. And make your life make sense. So on that note, I am signing off.